And guys, it's not just any Friday, okay? It's the Friday after the first round of the NFL draft. So, of course, we got to react to the first round. Here to do that is host of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast and former NFL lineman, Ross Tucker himself. Ross, thank you for being here.
Of course, Jesse, how are you? This is the day to be here.
I'm good. And I mean, it was exciting last night, right? Like, we all thought the draft was going to start at number 3, and that is what happened. The 49ers taking Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. Do you like this pick, and what do you think this means for Jimmy G?
You know, I got to tell you, by the way, I love the draft. I mean, it really, I got to think about where it fits in on my hierarchy of sporting events. The unknown and the intrigue is amazing. I'm thrilled for Trey Lance. You know, this is a guy that played 1 year of FCS football. I played FCS football, Jesse, back when it was called 1AA. If you would have told me a guy would play 1 year of FCS football as a redshirt freshman and be the 3rd overall pick in the draft for the 49ers, I don't think I would have believed you. He is really gifted, really talented. And I thought it was interesting this morning on the Ross Tucker podcast, Greg Cosell pointed out the fact the NFL Films guru, a lot of time under center, a lot of time with a fullback, a lot of time doing play action passes with his back to the defense. I think when Kyle Shanahan looked at Trey Lance, he could see him functioning in that Niners offense.
Okay, so let's talk about this. The Broncos ended up taking quarterback Patrick Surtain. He was almost universally supposed to be headed to Dallas at 10 in mock drafts. So this is kind of where like all hell broke loose. So with Surtain and J.C. Horn gone at this point, Dallas decides to move back, and the Eagles move up to make sure they snag the receiver they wanted in Heisman winner Devonta Smith. Now, trading up also made sure the division rival Giants didn't get Smith. Do you like this move by the Eagles?
Yeah, I really do. And there's a couple of reasons. I'm actually in a hotel room here in Philadelphia. I'm working the draft for the Eagles, and I like it for a couple of reasons. Number one, if you remember, Jesse, they moved down from 6 to 12 and picked up the Dolphins' first-round pick in the 2022 draft. I think there's a chance the Eagles would have taken Devonta Smith at 6, especially with Kyle Pitts and Jamar Chase off the board. I think it's very possible that the Eagles would have taken him at 6. Instead, they pick up an additional first-round pick. Now, they had to give up the 3rd-round pick to go in front of the Giants, but the Giants taking Kadarius Toney at 20, I think, is a pretty good indicator. They would have taken Devonta Smith at 11. So the Eagles did what they needed to do to leap over their division rivals and get the guy they wanted.
Okay, well, the team making maybe the boldest move was the Chicago Bears, moving up to 11 to draft Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields. Was this a big win for Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all of their fans are just so happy, and I'm happy for them. You know, I mean, everybody saw what Fields did the last couple of years and how talented he is. You know what I think is interesting about it is Matt Nagy, the head coach for the Bears, he was in Kansas City when they traded up for Patrick Mahomes. And some of the same pros and cons of Justin Fields is what people said about Mahomes. Nagy was there for Mahomes' rookie year where he didn't play much, but I think he saw in practice having an absolutely physically gifted guy, what that can mean. And I think Nagy wanted one of those guys, and he got one.
All right, well, everyone thought Dallas was going to land one of the 2-star corners at number 10, but with both of them gone, they moved down with a trade with Philly, go with Micah Parsons from Penn State. I mean, is that a good consolation prize for Dallas? Mike McCarthy has said they need to get faster on defense.
Absolutely, for a couple of different reasons. Number one, I think Micah Parsons was the most dominant and best defensive player in this draft. He is unbelievable, running a sub 4.4 at 250 pounds. And if you think about the Cowboys, when they've been good on defense, their linebackers have been healthy and playing well. Sean Lee, Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith. Here's the problem, Jesse. Sean Lee retired. Vander Esch has a serious neck issue. Jalen Smith has not played well the last couple of years. I think they need Parsons. They need that guy, and he's an unbelievable blitzer and pass rusher, which is how I think they'll use him early on.
Okay, well, Ross, this is a big one. Okay, New England hadn't drafted a quarterback in the first round since Drew Bledsoe in 1993. Many believe they wouldn't do it this year unless they moved up into the top 10 to grab one of those, top 5 rated quarterbacks in this draft. But with the way the draft board fell, Bill Belichick sat tight at 15 and he drafted Mac Jones out of Alabama. Were you surprised that Jones was still there at 15?
Yeah, I was a little bit because number one, I thought the Niners were going to take him at 3, so I was fooled on that. And I still thought if he fell, that a team like Denver at 9, maybe even Carolina at 8, would think long and hard about taking him, or even somebody might trade up in front of New England, like Chicago did for Fields, maybe Washington. Credit to the Patriots. I mean, they sat there and they got a guy that, basically fits the system that they ran for 20 years with some guy named Brady.
Some guy named Brady. Who? Brady who? All right, well, before we let you go, or actually before we even get to that, I mean, were there any big surprises for you on night 1 of the draft? I mean, I know that there was a lot of mystery surrounding this draft and a lot of craziness happened, but anything that's sort of sticking with you as a really big shocker?
Well, so 2 things, Jesse. One is it was not a surprise to me. If you listen to the Even Money podcast, I had J.C. Horn as the first defensive player off the board at plus 300 on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. So hopefully people listened to that show and took my advice. I know that surprised a lot of people that he was the first defensive player and went ahead of Patrick Surtain. I think Leatherwood at 17, Alex Leatherwood, the Alabama offensive tackle, to go at 17, although we shouldn't be surprised. This is the 3rd year in a row that the Raiders have taken a guy at least 10 spots higher than any mock draft in the galaxy had them going. It is uncanny. And by the way, Cleveland Farrell 2 years ago, Damon Arnett last year, not looking real good for the Raiders.
Okay, well, now before we let you go, what do you make of the report that Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay? I mean, there's a lot of memes on the internet right now, and it's like, oh, the Packers are in jeopardy. And it's like Aaron Rodgers at his Jeopardy hosting gig. So, I mean, the Packers say that they aren't moving him, but draft day in the Packers always seems to be interesting.
Well, that was intentional, Jesse. They ruined his weekend a year ago. He wanted to ruin their weekend this year. And you know what? He is passive aggressive, man. Aaron Rodgers makes me laugh. He actually has a little bit more Brett Favre in him than I realized, because Brett Favre could be awfully passive aggressive and sort of manipulative. Look, Rodgers isn't happy, and I don't blame him. Last year, rather than trying to get the team better around him, you take Jordan Love in the first round, you trade up for Jordan Love in the first round. Disastrous. And then he has to watch and see Brady gets to pick his team. Brady gets to go to a team that's all in on winning the Super Bowl. The same team, by the way, that went up to Green Bay and beat them. I think he's frustrated because he knows Green Bay will never really be all in to try to win that year. It's just not their style.